and in the vast circle of its arms I was upborne, I who knew myself to be without beginning and without end, and yet of the past and of the future knew nothing, save that these were full of mysteries. As I went I encountered others, or overtook them, making the same journey. Robertson swept past me and spoke, but in a tongue I could not understand. I noted that the madness had left his eyes and that his fine cut features were calm and spiritual. The other wanderers I did not know. I came to a region of blinding light. The thought rose in me that I must have reached the sun, or a sun, though I felt no heat. I stood in a lovely shining valley about which burned mountains of fire. There were huge trees in that valley, but they glowed like gold, and their flowers and fruit were as though they had been fashioned of many coloured flames. The place was glorious beyond compare, but very strange to me and not to be described. I sat me down upon a boulder which burned like a ruby, whether with heat or colour I do not know, by the edge of a stream that flowed with what looked like fire and made a lovely music. I stooped down and drank of this water of flames, and the scent and the taste of it were as those of the costliest wine. There beneath the spreading limbs of a fire tree I sat and examined the strange flowers that grew around, coloured like rich jewels and perfumed above imagining. There were birds also, which might have been feathered with sapphires, rubies and amethysts, and their song was so sweet that I could have wept to hear it. The scene was wonderful and filled me with exultation, for I thought of the land where it is promised that there shall be no more night. People began to appear, men, women and even children, though whence they came I could not see. They did not fly and they did not walk, they seemed to drift towards me, as unguided boats drift upon the tide. One and all they were very beautiful, but their beauty was not human, although their shapes and faces resembled those of men and women made glorious. None were old, and except the children none seemed very young. It was as though they had grown backwards or forwards to middle life and rested there at their very best. Now came the marvel. All these uncounted people were known to me, though so far as my knowledge went I had never set eyes on most of them before. Yet I was aware that in some forgotten life or epoch I had been intimate with every one of them, also that it was the fact of my presence and the call of my subconscious mind which drew them to this spot. Yet that presence and that call were not visible or audible to them, who, I suppose, flowed down some stream of sympathy, why or whither they did not know. Had I been as they were, perchance they would have seen me. As it was they saw nothing and I could not speak and tell them of my presence. Some of this multitude, however, I knew well enough even when they had departed years and years ago. But about these I noted this, that every one of them was a man or a woman or a child for whom I had felt love or sympathy or friendship. Not one was a person whom I had disliked or whom I had no wish to see again. If they spoke at all I could not hear or read their speech, yet to a certain extent I could hear their thoughts. Many of these were beyond the power of my appreciation on subjects which I had no knowledge, or that were too high for me, but some were of quite simple things such as concern us upon the earth, such as of friendship, or learning, or journeys made or to be made, or art or literature, or the wonders of nature, or of the fruits of the earth as they knew them in this region. This I noted too, that each separate thought seemed to be hallowed and enclosed in an atmosphere of prayer or heavenly aspiration, as a seed is enclosed in the heart of a flower, or a fruit in its odorous rind, and that this prayer or aspiration presently appeared to bear the thought away, whither I knew not. Moreover, all these thoughts, even to the humblest things, were beauteous and spiritual; nothing cruel or impure or even coarse was to be found among them. They radiated charity, purity and goodness. Among them I perceived were none that had to do with our earth. This and its affairs seemed to be left far behind these thinkers. A truth that chilled my soul was alien to their company. Worse still, so far as I could discover, although I knew that all these bright ones had been near to me at some hour in the measurements of time and space, not one of their musings dwelt upon me or on aught with which I had to do. Between me and them there was a great gulf fixed and a high wall built. Oh, look! One came shining like a star, and from far away came another with dove-like eyes and beautiful exceedingly, and with this last a maiden whose eyes were as hers, whom my own heart told me was her mother. Well, I knew them both. They were those whom I had come to seek, the women who had been mine upon the earth, and at the sight of them my spirit thrilled. Surely they would discover me. Surely at least they would speak of me and feel my presence. But although they stayed within a pace or two of where I rested, alas, it was not so. They seemed to kiss and to exchange swift thoughts about many things, high things of which I will not write, and common things, yes, even of the shining robes they wore, but never a one of me. I strove to rise and go to them, but could not. I strove to speak and could not. I strove to throw out my thoughts to them and could not. It fell back upon my head like a stone hurled heavenward. They were remote from me, utterly apart. I wept tears of bitterness that I should be so near and yet so far. A dull and jealous rage burned in my heart, and this they did seem to feel, or so I fancied. At any rate, apparently by mutual consent they moved further from me, as though something pained them. Yes, my love could not reach their perfected natures, but my anger hurt them. As I sat chewing this root of bitterness, a man appeared, a very noble man, in whom I recognized my father grown younger and happier looking, but still my father, with whom came others, men and women whom I knew to be my brothers and sisters who had died in youth far away in Oxfordshire. Joy leapt up in me, for I thought these will surely know me and give me welcome, since though here sex has lost its power, blood must still call to blood. But it was not so. They spoke or interchanged their thoughts, but not one of me. I read something that passed from my father to them. It was a speculation as to what had brought them all together there, and read also the answer hazarded that perhaps it might be to give welcome to some unknown who was drawing near from below and would feel lonely and unfriended. Thereon my father replied that he did not see or feel this wanderer, and thought that it could not be so, since it was his mission to greet such on their coming. Then in an instant all were gone, and that lovely glowing plain was empty, save for myself seated on the ruby-like stone, weeping tears of blood and shame and loss within my soul. So I sat a long while, till presently I was aware of a new presence, a presence dusky and splendid and arrayed in rich barbaric robes. Straight she came towards me, like a thrown spear, and I knew her for a certain royal and savage woman who on earth was named Mameena, or Wind that